Today on JCTV, Mid-Missouri Art News, Mr. Benjamin Lowder out of Central Illinois and Cherokee Street Gallery out of St. Louis. Welcome to JCTV, Mid-Missouri Art News, supported now by many enthusiasts, art enthusiasts, and lovers of art, coming to you from the capital city of Jefferson City, Missouri. I'm your host, Rick J., with a special guest I've been looking forward to visiting with here at the studio for months, artist Benjamin Lowder of St. Louis, Central Illinois, and the Cherokee Street Gallery. So please join me in welcoming multi-talented, as you'll find, artist Benjamin Lowder from the Cherokee Street Gallery, St. Louis, Missouri. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having
Benjamin.
me here. This is a lovely studio.
If I may, well, Benjamin, or Ben, if I may call you by your first name.
Please do.
Please tell us a little bit about those highlights of your life up to this time and a future that best describe Benjamin Lowder.
Sure, okay. Well, I was born in Central Illinois in a rural agricultural environment, and my grandfather and his sons, they had 6 boys. My dad was one of them, and they all kind of worked in the construction trade, except my father. But that was 2 generations of people who were working with reclaimed wood and reclaimed materials. So, you know, my current body of work, that's the medium that I'm using, is reclaimed wood and reclaimed vintage signage, kind of purposefully. But, so I guess I would be the 3rd generation of Lowders who are working in reclaimed materials.
Reclaimed materials.
Yeah. It began from more of a kind of a practical, utilitarian standpoint, but now it's, for me, it's kind of evolved into more of a aesthetic or philosophical angle on it.
Oh, excellent. I can see the philosophical especially, and we're going to get into that in the second segment, really get into it deep and learn about it, because his artwork with the reclaimed materials really speak well, as you'll see. And he has a very beautiful storefront there in, beg your pardon, St. Louis, Missouri. Well, let's kind of say, there had to be a point where you really was inspired. You just all of a sudden did a light go off, or
I've done art my entire life. I mean, as from my youngest memories would have been doing art or feeling a sense of value over my ability to make art. It's always been a key kind of part of my identity. Probably one of my earliest memories was a bunch of change was on the coffee table. I arranged it into a pattern, and a babysitter came over and was really impressed. And that house would have been before I was 4 years old, so that's probably put a light bulb over my head, like, oh wow, I can get praise for if I have a
seeing vision, not a vision, but visualizing something on the wall, and he adds to it with a line, or pretty soon it becomes an antelope or what have you, and then he finds the reason. Like you all go out and hunt, and I'll stay here and draw, and I'll speak to the higher being and make it a safe trip. Probably praised too, also, from his artwork on the cave wall. So I can identify with that. It's almost genetically. Also, I know why some of us have had the feeling of art, or wanting to display what's inside, what we're seeing to others. In an artistic fashion. That's started with me. I know at least probably 4 or 5 years old also. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting topic alone, just to where you began. So you basically was inspired by your own, shall we say, accomplishment.
Well, yeah, or just that's where you get started, and then as you go along, art's always been the kind of the backbone of whatever I did. Whether even getting up into high school and building furniture and drawing blueprints and seeing how math interacts with artwork, and then eventually building a house, and that's also has aesthetic and mathematic properties
definitely.
to convey that. But the act of building the house was actually what informed this current body of artwork that's made out of the reclaimed materials, because the home was built out of reclaimed materials.
We're going to show pictures. You've identified photos and pictures of this art. So as we're speaking, these will be shown above the voice timeline.
Terrific.
And some of those we'll identify later by name, so we'll make sure that those go. I'm so impressed. It's almost, I see your art almost in a Native American fashion, that you see a lot of jewelry by the Navajos, for example.
I've gotten that kind of feedback from people, and it surprised me a little bit, but when because that wasn't totally intentional, but when I thought about why, it was kind of obvious, because the geometry that I'm using reflects nature's geometry, or the patterns that get repeated throughout natural growth structures. There's a few limited proportions that get used over and over throughout all natural growth structures.
Exactly.
And then people perceive that to be aesthetically pleasing because it reflects nature, which is the nurturing, supportive aspect of nature, and our like you're mentioning, our ancestral memories around that come forward, and you automatically perceive it to be aesthetically appealing.
Exactly.
If anyone wants to Google it, it's called a phi ratio. PHI ratio, and I won't go into that ad nauseum, but that's
you taught me a new term.
Yeah, phi ratio. So
ratio.
When you mention the Native American or indigenous people are more embedded in the natural world, and their creation is reflecting nature. So you end up with a lot of the same aesthetic, kind of accidentally, and then people recognize that and identify that.
So you tap into people's aesthetics without them even possibly knowing. But as an artist, we want people to identify with us and what we have, and then if you can tap into that, and you never know, because each one sees it differently. So I can understand that, and that's really interesting that I saw the same, I guess. That, so you have, in a sense, captured that, and that's it works.
It does,
and it sure shows in your art.
Oh, thank you very much.
Beautiful, awesome.
Yeah,
it sure is. So even back to the totem pole.
Yeah.
And different things in the Native American arts. It's always related to nature.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you identified that. I mean, I think that's another thing that really interests me: mythology. And how we kind of collectively relate to nature and try to create narratives that give meaning to things and give order.
Exactly.
And that's something that I've kind of gotten fixated on, is meaning. And that was my area of study even in college. It's called semiotics.
Semiotics.
It's how we attribute meaning to symbol systems.
Semiotics.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. On the show, we never know. We have a basic guideline, but we never know what we can tap into again, to use the term loosely today. But it is interesting that we can identify, and then we can identify with the viewers just exactly why maybe they are seeing things the way they are seeing them within their own psychic, what have you. Well, it may be a question. I was going to ask you, what is your favorite medium? Certain woods, certain mediums that you like to work with?
Well, this current stuff is all reclaimed materials because
and can you define that for us?
Sure. It's old structures throughout the Midwest that I tore down, barns and whatnot, to build our home out of, because I didn't want, like I said, I've seen it demonstrated in our family, so I know that it works. It's aesthetically pleasing, and it doesn't waste resources. You know, I'm not going to a lumber yard buying stuff that got milled in the Pacific Northwest and then trucked across the country. So, I mean, it had a sustainability component that, you know, for me, not wanting to contribute to deforestation. Exactly. But then there's also a patina and a beauty that, you know, working with it, I really fell in love with.
We must take a break, so please hang with me.
G-morning, sunshine. Wakey, wakey. Text me back. Hey, did you tell your parents about us? Let's skip first period together. Did you get all my texts? Is practice over yet? Where are you at? Are you with your friends? That's L-A-A-A-A-M-M-E-E-E. Capital X, lowercase o, capital X, lowercase o.
I love you. JK. I hate you. JK.
Are you ignoring me?
We're in a huge fight right now.
Is this something I did?
I can see your lights on. I'm coming
This
over.
isn't a
What'd you
joke.
dream about?
Did you
Me?
lose my number? Are you on your
I'm
list?
lonely. Holla back. Holla back. Let's try something new. Nude pics. Send me some. Text me.
Welcome back to Mid-Missouri Art News here at JCTV, Jefferson City, Missouri. I'm your host, Rick J. As we return to our time with Mr. Benjamin Lowder out of Illinois and Cherokee Street Gallery in St. Louis. Welcome back, Benjamin.
Thank you.
Had a very good first segment and a lot of information there gained and perspective and feeling. So I thank you so much for that. Well, you know, Benjamin, your total dedication shows in your many talents, with all appearing to be associated with art, design, sharing your concepts through lecturing on many topics, the way I read, and plus your new gallery opening on June 29th, 2018. Mm-hmm. June 29th, it's just been opened. Yeah. Beautiful opening front. Just draws you in, the glass as you're looking in, you just have to enter. Please, if you can, step us through some of the highlights associated with your world of art. So, should we say, what channels your dedication to art, photography, lecturing, travels, and et cetera, to continue on? I know you've just finished an exhibit in Columbia, Missouri.
Yes, yep, it was at Sager Broadus Gallery, lovely gallery in Columbia, Missouri, and that went very well. It was nice. Excellent,
and somewhat tied into your myth magic. I say myth. Should say myth, math, and magic.
There you go. Yeah. Okay. That's why I refer to this current body of work I've been working on, because those are the things that I'm all kind of tying together.
Right. That's what I thought you was trying to do, is kind of build them under one umbrella. So
the math refers to this package of ideas called sacred geometry. The myth is kind of how we can, you know, communicate and convey meaning to things collectively, and then magic is this idea of how our personal will, through the use of signs and symbols, can affect the world. And that's how art functions. It's a package of signs.
So that would then kind of sort of tie into my your lecturing. You really known for your lecturing, and you like to speak, I guess, under the auspices of remixing cultural artifacts. Again, to display these these feelings that you just spoke of.
I guess it's kind of a dance between being nostalgic for the old object and the old vintage advertising and the old barns and the old material, and but not being stuck in the past. It's
Move
a way
on forward.
Honor it, and don't squander it and waste it, but transform it for something that can carry us forward to the future and show progress.
Latch on to it as a viewer and see where it takes you, I guess.
Yeah,
we could say.
that I've had to learn. And when I first got started, I was passionate about trying to convey something specific, and recently I've tried to pull back on not be preachy and leave room for the viewer to attribute their own meaning and just kind of open a door, and then that's another interesting phrase that anthropologists use. It's called liminality that I learned recently. It's called the threshold or doorway.
Oh, I see. Opening a threshold to the future.
Potential,
What have you, yes. I can see that. Well, now your travels and your lecturing, Los Angeles, with your myth, math, and magic. I got it that time. Favorite of mine, as we can display, hopefully.
Yeah.
The Tetra Totem piece. Again, back to the Native American being of blood.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So that really, that was the piece I really fell in love with.
Yeah. It has a lot
so
of
your
meaning.
Travels, can you tell us a little bit of your travels?
Yeah, I think people here in the Midwest we're used to seeing, the grade barns and the old rusty storefront signage and stuff like that. That's part of our cultural landscape.
Right.
But in coastal cities like Los Angeles and New York, that's exotic in some ways, or they don't have that same heritage there, and but they also are very interested in it from a standpoint of sustainability. You see a lot of these very shishi type of restaurants in Venice Beach, and the walls are totally covered with Midwestern weathered barnwood.
Yes, I use the barnwood for my frames. A lot of my pieces that are
nice.
basically identifiable to Missouri farm life, and pieces that I've got. I'm working on it now. So again, I use that aesthetic feel of the barn and the colors, the patina, what have you. So again, I can identify, and I know a lot of our viewers probably enjoy that also. Well, now, tell us a little bit about the murals on the Meridian.
That was a project that I initiated out of Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville, where a guy that I really draw a lot of inspiration from taught, named Buckminster Fuller. He built a building there called a geodesic dome.
Geodesic, I can identify the geometry.
Yeah, that was really appealing to me, especially from the geometry standpoint, and it informs my art because if you see it, I use triangles and different combinations to create all these patterns. He used triangles to create the geodesic dome, but nature, builds, and these are the same patterns that nature uses again.
Now, I introduced you to one of our guests on the program, Mr. David Plank, and I believe I showed you the blue jays and the owl.
Beautiful.
Did you notice that Mr. Plank, at 84 years old, used the geodesic background because he again understood that the bird didn't really know that would know that he had a background, because the background again aligns with nature, as you brought up earlier. So here's an 84-year-old man known for his books, painting in birds of Arkansas, birds of Missouri, and then later on in the 70s come with the geometric design behind the birds. So
it works good.
It's funny how he even identified just from a nature standpoint. Well, all these designs, alignments, measurements, what have you, have gone into Benjamin's home, and his home design, and known as the Lowder House, there in Illinois, on the lake.
Otter Lake.
Otter Lake, okay.
Yeah.
So the significance, which I already know the answer, but let the viewers know the significance, if you could, of the solar heating concept and how the house is designed. Now, we're going to show photos as he speaks, so you can see exactly how this home, not only beautiful in its overall arrangement, But go ahead.
Sure.
See if you can
So, yeah,
enlighten us here on the Lowder house.
Yeah. Well, I guess the initial aesthetic and shape reflects the fact that I'm a big fan of mid-century modern architecture, which is
Yes.
your Frank Lloyd Wright.
Yeah,
and,
oh my gosh.
you
Isn't
know,
that
yeah, those
Frank
guys,
Lloyd Wright.
Louis Sullivan, and
Yes.
but then after that consideration, I wanted it to naturally heat and cool itself, and that's kind of a way that people used to build before heating and air conditioning, where you had to consider seasonal sun angles, so and prevailing winds and the thermodynamics inside the house, so that it kind of non-mechanistically heats and cools itself by being in alignment with nature. And so on the winter solstice, we get maximum sunlight into the house. 2/3 of it receives direct sunlight. We have a dyed concrete floor that absorbs all that sunlight throughout the day in the winter. But then on the summer solstice, no direct sunlight comes in because the angle of the sun
the angle
changes.
changes,
So-
moves on across.
Yep, and so then the shadow line strikes the foundation on the summer solstice.
So, like your artwork, a lot of thought, a lot of planning has gone into the Lowder house. It's a beautiful house.
Yeah, thank you.
It even looks homey, even with this geometrical alignment and
Yeah.
design. It just
That was the lesson I learned. I think that if you align it with nature and you use natural geometry,
Yes.
and then the aesthetic considerations are, again, I use that phi ratio that I discovered while researching how ancient people built. So then I included that, and it even though it's a kind of a modern aesthetic, it definitely kind of cuts across and appeals to everyone for that same reason that it reflects nature.
Yes.
Yeah, I think.
Well, let's step out of the Lowder house and go to the field, your field of photography work.
Yeah.
And stepping out in the breeze, we see the blowing milkweed
Yeah,
piece,
yeah.
which I hope we have a shot of that.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorites, probably as far as your photography.
Thank you.
What a shot.
Thank you. Yeah, well, that's we bought 15 acres of an old farm that they subdivided up there in Illinois, and it was an old hog lot and a place where they parked obsolete farm equipment, and we spent a lot of time and energy clearing that away, coming back in with native plant species, and you know the monarchs are declining
Yes.
year after year after year
Yes.
due to habitat loss because of big agribusiness, and their whole life cycle relies on milkweed.
Right.
So I really was studying and looking at milkweed very closely to see, that, and
That's what-
always had a camera with me. So I have a lot of photographs of the beauty of the intricacy of the seed heads of plants and
yes.
stuff like that.
And even the design of the
Yep.
milk pod itself.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting close on time again. It goes so fast, even in 30 minutes. You know, every artist has a dream of opening his or her own gallery, and,
Yeah.
and you've now introduced us to Cherokee Street Gallery. So it's been a buzz already in the city of St. Louis. I just had a guest on last week, spoke highly of you and your gallery, Miss Karen Glines. So please, Benjamin, share with us your passion, if you can.
Sure.
Really, that brought the gallery to its opening last June, this last June, and what do you like to share about it? The address, phone number, your website, if you would also.
Yeah, it's in St. Louis, 2617 Cherokee Street, and CherokeeStreetGallery.com is where you can find it. But as an artist, I was showing around in group shows with, and since, in Los Angeles and New York, and since I was deconstructing text of the vintage advertising,
Yes.
I was getting curated along with other people working in text-based, which
see.
connected me with graffiti artists who, I'm from a rural environment, but they're from an urban environment, but we had a lot of crossover on this use of letter forms and text. It was an interesting crossover, and I had, seen lots of things being curated incorrectly. I felt like the people were being overlooked who should be getting credit for innovating, especially in that graffiti art world.
Yes.
And when this opportunity came, I thought, all right, well, I can show people who I feel voices need to be added to a narrative of a branch of artwork that's globally dominant right now. I mean, the most valuable American artist was formerly what you'd say, graffiti artist or street artist.
In the beginning.
Yeah, Jean-Michel Basquiat,
Well,
and he works in text as well.
Please
so.
join me in first chance you get in St. Louis. Let's visit the Cherokee Street Gallery. I can't wait to go see it firsthand. Like I said, it just invites you in from the outside. Lighting is great, and a lot of consideration, I'm sure, in that, and the design layout of the gallery also. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed visiting with you, Ben. We are about to run out of time, so do you have any final words of inspiration to share with our viewers that you'd like to leave their thoughts with?
I would say, that everyone has a unique voice. And if you're honest to your voice and your personal experience, you absolutely cannot go wrong. Don't feel like you have to adhere to what's popular or what's accepted in convention.
Right.
Just honor your own personal perspective, and you can't go wrong if you report that honestly.
Just be yourself.
Do
from
you.
the heart.
That's right.
And don't listen to others, just do your thing, as they used to say. Excellent. Right. I think I can interpret that into my own lingo. I thank you. Well, on behalf of JCTV, Mid-Missouri Art News, I want to thank you for sharing so much with us here on Mid-Missouri Art News, Benjamin.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, next year on Mid-Missouri Art News, my guest will be artist Leanne Perello of Capitol Arts Gallery in Jefferson, Missouri, and a photographer, Curtis Hendricks, that you're going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting for you to listen to their story. So Curtis Hendricks is known for his photography in the area on metal, a new way of showing excellent pieces on metal. So you'll want to tune in for that interview. That's coming up. I want to say thanks to JCTV and our producer Gloria Enelo and crew, and thank you our viewers for watching. Look for more Mid-Missouri Art News right here at JCTV. And don't forget YouTube. I'm Rick J. Singh. See you next time. Thank you.